Cybersecurity is one of the main themes this year at Sibos. Swift's customer security program, known as CSP, works on strengthening the security of the whole banking system by helping banks improve the security of their individual part of the system.
To update us on the CSP, we're joined by Pat Antonacci, Managing Director of the CSP at Swift, and Marc Hofmann, Swift's Chief Information Security Officer. Gentlemen, welcome to Sibos TV.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for joining us. Now, Marc, we'll start with you. What approaches are cyber criminals using to plan their attacks on the banking community?
Yeah, so first of all, our observations show it's not just one group, so we have different groups. And they have different behaviors in their attacks. However, they have a couple of things in common. So they are far better resourced and far better skilled than they have been in the past. So they're able to do sophisticated attacks. And as we speak, they are learning. And so do we need to learn and improve.
What about the Swift network itself? Is it a target?
Yeah, so we have no evidence at this point in time that Swift has been successfully attacked. We did in the past few years significant investments in our cyber capabilities. And I think the whole community is in an arms race against the bad guys. And so we do need to continue to focus on this topic and do need to invest in that. So as a CISO in Swift, my primary focus is security of Swift, obviously. But the second focus clearly is the security of the whole community. And I think this is a role Swift needs to play to help the community.
Pat, speaking of the community, how do attacks on one Swift customer impact the whole community?
Yeah, I think as Marc alluded, a single attack is a local infrastructure, so it doesn't have a direct impact on the community. But as the cooperative that we play in the role we play at Swift, we said, let's do this customer security program so we can raise the bar for the entire ecosystem so that you don't run the risk of the lowest player creating the biggest risk and the risk of the player in the chain that breaks the chain, right? A lot of the learnings as well from a community is to take those incidents and learn from them and share that information. And we do that through the Swift ISAC portal that allows us to share the information anonymized with the rest of the community to stop further attacks from happening in a similar spectrum.
And Marc, what is Swift's role in responding to these attacks and indeed the threat of future attacks?
Yeah. So I think Swift can and need to play a facilitator role for security for the whole community because we connect all the participants. I strongly believe that collaboration is a key critical capability of the good guys today and going forward to succeed against the threat on the cyber side. And a good example is, and Pat, you just mentioned that Swift ISAC, for example, we share information with the whole community, which comes from the community and from our researchers and analysts, like, for example, indicators of compromise. So we help the community to learn from the others. And I think this is a critical thing.
Pat, Swift's customer security program, the CSP, is a key part of its response to these threats. What's its specific aim?
So we look at it in three components. The first is to create a baseline of general cyber hygiene that everybody should follow, and we create a framework around that and controls that people should comply with in that process. But on top of being secure, also looking at detection and response. So we've put together a number of tools to, if you are compromised, how do you detect that process and respond to that? The second is understanding that we don't live in an ecosystem that's just our own environment. So we need to make sure that we're engaged with our counterparties and there's transparency so that I understand what my counterparty is doing and he understands what I'm doing so that you can manage the risk around cybersecurity in that process. And then the last one is around sharing. So making sure that we grow from the experiences that we have, as Marc alluded.
Now, we know that December 2018 is the deadline for Swift members to comply with the mandatory customer security framework controls. So would you say the community is now on target?
Yeah, I think last year it was the year of attestation. Where are you in your process? This year, as we have the buttons, it's the year to comply, right? Comply now. So we did see a number of organizations already comply last year. We're seeing them continue to fill those gaps that they had on some of those controls, reattest to their process, and by the end of this year, they need to reattest their level of compliance and to be compliant with at minimum the mandatory controls that we defined as that minimum baseline for cyber hygiene.
Pat, what's next for CSP? What do you see for 2019 and beyond?
Yeah, so we need to continue to evolve, right? So it's not a one-time checkbox exercise. It needs to continue to evolve as the threats evolve. So we've already released what we call version 2019. So what are the controls we want people to apply to by 2019? We're looking at that now for 2020 as well. But I think the big key will really be making sure that we continue to evolve our detection and response. There are attacks, there will always be attacks. The quicker we can respond and block that money from leaving the system, that's the success, not necessarily whether we were or weren't secure at the time at a specific customer endpoint.
Okay then, so plenty there to think about, to discuss in the future as well. But Pat Antonacci and Marc Hofmann, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you.